Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Friday. You know what that means? That means it is Freestyle Friday time. I'm your host for this Freestyle Friday, Stewie Kaz. And today we have the lovely, talented, amazing, leader-like person that we like to call Senza Infinite. Now,
It,
let's welcome Senza Infinite in the chat, into the stream. We got the two up here so y'all can see how we doing it. So check it out, check it out. So, um, thank you for coming through. And I want to make sure we got all the stuff out the way and we ready to go. Cool. So, everybody say what's up in the chat. All right, we got Senza Infinite in the house. All right, so this is Freestyle Friday. For those of you that do not know, what we do is we like to discuss this life as a freestyle metaphor extensively for an hour, hopefully, with our guest of the hour, and we have different people coming on from different walks of life, from different experiences, different professions, and what have you. Lately, it's been a lot of rappers because, metaphor is one of those things that rappers tend to deal with very, very, very frequently. So we have somebody who is a rapper, but Senza, would you do us the favor of telling people a little bit more about yourself, IT?
oh, all right. IT number one, thanks for having me. I'm super excited. Hi to everybody. So yeah, a little bit about myself. Well, so number one, off top, I feel like I'm a human being first. You know what I
Of
mean?
course,
And
first, yes.
yeah, first. And so about me is I'm someone that I feel travels this earth trying to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And and those canvases for me are through music, working with youth, and really just being present in every interaction that I have. So, yeah.
Okay, definitely. Working with youth, that is a very noble thing to do because the children are the future, as they say. Um,
For sure.
so let's get into it with the first question that will be a bar because every single question we ask on the Freestyle Fridays live stream is essentially going to be a bar based on the way we conform these questions, to the person that we have on as the guest, as well as to how the metaphor applies maybe to right now or maybe to their specific craft or what have you. So let's talk about it. Senza
Yeah.
Infinite, IT,
You're
your name. Can you speak on the nominal determination of giving yourself the name Senza Infinite? Because I detect a little bit of Dragon Ball Z in it, but
not.
that's only because there's like some sensu beans, senza, you know. There was a
Yeah,
little bit of
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, let's tell us more, please.
All right. So Senza, and it was a musical term, right? So it means to not. It's basically like saying like to not hold, um, like if you're gonna hold down the pedal to
Mm-hmm.
like extend it. So
Okay.
for me, I took that as just having no limits. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Certain things were out, and so then I have it's actually infinite, and then
Infinite. Okay. Thank you
uh-huh,
very much.
and then so like infinity symbol, but I like the minus a little bit because even though things continually go around, but I feel like that we should be able to grow, and
Mm-hmm.
so not to get trapped in that. So to me, that's two negatives make a positive, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's how I got it. I felt like I like to approach my life as being as carefree and as creative as I can,
Mm-hmm.
with music and just not being confined to any specific style. I think I just should be able to kind of just have fun and do what I want, and with the intention to create a better world. That's what I'm going to say.
The intention is always important, so that's great.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said about infinity, the concept of it, which we could say it's a human's concept, but I mean, if humans weren't here, infinity would kind of still exist, doesn't it?
Facts. Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But infinity speaks to freestyle, right? Because there's a lot of the idea of what does freestyle try to express. It tries to express that infinite or that infinity aspect of life, of, everything that we consider to be reality or creation or what have you. So there's definitely that there. So all right, let's get into the next question. The next question, we like to hear at Life is a Freestyle, look at the metaphor life is a freestyle and dissect it in as many ways as possible. So we say life is a freestyle, but life inherently comes from something. To cross-pollinate with the metaphor, people are plants, because we like to look at all different types of metaphors, and metaphors fit into other metaphors, and there's recursion, and there's all this stuff, right? So people are plants. I know you are somebody who likes, cultivating life from the ground. Somebody who likes plant life and things like that. So to look at how plant life comes from the soil or the ground, and that human beings often go back to the ground when we pass away, as in ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and stuff like that. What does it mean to be grounded in life to you? What is the expansive kind of look on that?
I would say to be grounded in life means to be grounded in self.
Okay.
Because I feel like in order for, like, you go outside, if you don't have any shoes on, like, you can't have any shoes on for you to be able to feel the ground. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be some connection. And so if I'm up here with everything and I'm not myself, how can I expect for it to go through my feet and be grounded? That's how I'm gonna.
Very true. Very true. There's a lot of electrical connection when it comes to thinking about groundedness too.
Right.
We are electric beings. Our hearts generate electricity because we have iron in our blood, and the motion of all of that electrical activity in our brain and all this kind of stuff. So touching the ground, which is a part of an electric being called the earth, that has this dynamo at the center of liquid iron that's creating this thing on it. We don't have to go all the way into space with it, but the ground has that charge, right? Has that connection to something a little bit bigger than us, or a lot bigger than us, really. So so to continue with this I like to kind of go down rabbit holes with this, right? So continue with this mixture of metaphor, all with the intent of understanding ours better, our metaphor that life is a freestyle better. With your experience with plant life, can you talk about how plants, as a form of life, freestyle?
I would say, like, you have a seed, right? And before that seed, you don't necessarily know if that seed's gonna grow or not. Like, you put it in the ground with the intention that it will. And so that in itself is freestyling, because it can do whatever it wants to do. You know what I mean? And as it grows, it can grow anywhere. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, you plant something somewhere and it'll be 50 feet to the left. You know what I mean? So I just feel like
you have to find the perfect spot to sprout up, huh?
Yeah. So it's just like, I feel like plants' whole existence is freestyling, literally because us humans are always interacting with it, right? So it's kind of just with the flow of us. So yeah.
Okay. So with this reference to seeds, and we talk about they can do whatever they want, but they'll always turn into plants if they're plant seeds. They'll always turn into humans if they're human seeds. We talk about the seed that the mother's birth, right? So we often refer to children as seeds in hip hop culture, in Black culture, in slang culture, in word hustling culture, right? So before they are fully socialized into the larger community, would you say that children are some of the best human examples of life as freestyle?
Yes, that's pure freestyle. That's what I'll say.
Okay, definitely.
I'll say pure, because as we grow, sometimes what happens is, like, we experience life, the good and the bad, and from that, like, most times we get, I'll say, tainted, you know what I mean, or we kind of just, there's an error in our system, and I think with children, they're just so in the zone. All they want to do is be happy, and they don't hold on to stuff. They're just there, you know what I mean, literally freestyling, because they're not thinking about the next thing. They're just really in the moment. So and
they have no clue what to expect, because they just woke up, essentially, right? They just got here.
They just expect to feel happy. You know what I mean? It's not even expected. They just feel happy. That's how they live. You know what I mean? That's just their existence.
Okay. All right. So we are bustling through these bars, man. It's amazing. I love it. Cool. So when a person, and this is a continuation of the metaphor again, when a person has deeply rooted behaviors or emotional pathology, it's often difficult to change their minds or hearts. or show them a new perspective. When you uproot plants to replant them in better soil, so like if you get a plant from the store or the nursery or what have you, sometimes you have to repot it so that it has more space to grow and kind of stretch out and soak up more nutrients from whatever new soil that you put in there.
Yeah.
You want to give them more sunlight, whatever the reason is that you repot a plant. Can it be seen as a traumatic exchange for the plant, or is it the same for people when you have to kind of replant them in a new soil of a foundation of understanding?
It depends on the plant. It depends on the person. I think sometimes, let's say your intention is to repot a plant, right? Let's just say it doesn't make it. And so I think, like, how do I apply it to humans? Sometimes, like, a part of us has to die. You know what I mean? And so, like, let's say that plant didn't make it, like, oh, dang, like, what can I do to improve it next time? So I kind of set up the right atmosphere. And so I feel like it can be, or it can. It really just depends on where you're at, really, in life. And I think, like, it has a lot to do with how far, just where you're at in your journey. Some people can handle more intense things than some people can at the moment. You know what I mean? It just really just depends on each person.
Okay. So while it depends on the person, let's talk about the foundation that we speak of when you talk about soil, right? When it comes to soil as foundation, we know that the variety of life that can come from soil is more diverse than just one crop. It's not always going to be grass. It's not always going to be corn. It's not always going to be trees or whatever. We also know that like rainforests and dense jungles, the variety of plant life in these places also ends up hosting ecosystems beyond our wildest dreams. A lot of the jungles and forests and rainforests of the world have still yet to be completely discovered because of the variety of that's out there. So what can humans do to our foundational soil to cultivate diversity and variety in our human generations as we raise the next crops of people?
It still goes back to being grounded in self, because I feel like how can we expect to cultivate a better future if we don't even know what we're doing ourselves, or we haven't checked our own selves? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like I throw a rock, but then I'm trying to tell a child not to throw a rock. It's kind of like, all right, I got to check myself first. That I have to be the foundation within myself before I'm trying to build some, I'm trying to help a child cultivate their foundation.
So a lot of grown-ups need to maybe take a look in the mirror first, before they start trying to son and daughter people around,
Definitely. I think, I think it's kind of like I was stated last week, like cognitive dissonance, where it's kind of like you think you're one way, you do something totally different. And I think that's more so, that's kind of, it can be the haze in the world sometimes, you know what I mean? And it really takes us taking the time to pause and really look at ourselves and see, like, the not so great parts, and then the great parts, and then, like, all right, how can I take that experience? How can I take this one, and how can I grow for it?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just kind of, that's how I look at it.
And from a neurological standpoint, we don't have to necessarily get all the way into that, but just connections in the brain, pathology in the mind of one neuron connecting to a neuron. How can I take this and connect it with that, or how many times does it connect? How strong is that connection, and what does that even mean when the connection is there? So there's a lot of that goes into it that we have to do from a mental kind of psychological standpoint that will then kind of show itself in the pathology or the neurology that goes along.
Yes, before we try to connect these young children's neurons, especially the younger they are, it's just, it's rapid fire. So
Exactly. So our inner children that we all have as people often get overwritten or modified over time as we become adults. Does tapping into your life's individual freestyle involve tapping into your inner child?
I feel like, I don't know if I'd say inner child. I would just say, like, more so the pure essence of your soul.
Okay.
I feel like we have parts of ourselves that are, like, they're still maybe in the part of, like, a child, that may be a child aspect, but I feel like I feel like it's just tapping into the soul, really.
Okay. The soul being kind of the infinite, or infinite. Wait, how'd you say it?
Infinite.
The infinite version, right, of the essence of who we are as people. And the expression of that, so.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it takes a lot of digging to get there. You know what I mean? And I guess you would have to pass through the child, but I feel like before you're a child, you're still, you have your soul. You know what I mean? So in child just is like a human word.
Right.
So
True.
yeah.
All right, so moving right along. So let's see. As an artist, you have a mixture of sounds and senses. We like to talk about sound and sense a lot. Sounds and senses in your performance. You sing, you rap, you hum, you kind of harmonize, melodize, and what have you. Do you approach your lifestyle through the same lens and techniques as you approach your creative pursuits?
Yes and no, and that has its pros and cons.
Okay.
So I think even how I create music is not so much let me sit down and do this. I kind of just hear the song, I'm like just humming it, whatever words come through, and then from there I just kind of develop it. It's not so much just a this. I'll refine it afterwards, but I feel like it is going with the flow. And then I feel like, yes, in my life, I think it depends the space I'm in, right? And I think as long as I'm being true to myself, that is freestyling, right? And then also I feel like there's places where, if I need to be organized, then like freestyling might need, you know what I mean? Maybe not too much freestyling or like constraint in freestyle, I would say. So yeah, but I felt overall, I freestyle because I try to stay true to myself and just maneuver as such and not be swayed by other people's anything. You know what I mean? So,
okay. Yeah, trying to be true to yourself, like you said, and true to the source, right? So like we talk about target domain and source domain when we look at metaphor. And so a lot of times like looking at metaphor as not only conceptual, but as something that we can use to kind of understand the path of the transmission of consciousness or the transmission of communication. First you have the idea, or first you have the reference point, and that reference point may be within, and so then you do what it takes to kind of transmit or communicate that, and that's using a target to kind of attach that source reference to that. So that's what we do a lot of times, and that's definitely a good thing to do when you're thinking about living your life and what kind of decisions that you make. But we also have to remember, freestyle, as we always like to say, even though it's not something that is like anything, everything, all the time. There's still constraint, there's still rigidity, there's still kind of rails that you're on when it comes to that. So in the case of certain aspects of your life, you can't do any and everything when you're freestyling, but you can do certain things that have gradation to them, or variety or what have you. So that's definitely a good point to make there. From your perspective, what do you deem as low-hanging fruit when it comes to framing a concept for a record or a project? Is there an approach that you've opted out of to replace it with a more optimal approach?
Low-hanging fruit, I would say what I deem the norm a lot of time in music, which is like the same thing. Like I can hear about, be this, I did this, and it's not just even specific to rap, it's across the board. You know what I mean? Like it's just like there's low-hanging fruit is not trying to grow, in my opinion. That's what I would say. And so like if my last, yes, definitely. And I think like, there's a way to do it. I think something I'm learning is kind of just to not be everywhere, but take all these things and put them in one place. You know what I mean? And so like
I get that a lot.
A lot of the times when I hear songs, it's just like, if I heard this song, or I heard those other 12 songs, you know what I mean? So I feel like if low-hanging fruit is, and this is just my opinion,
of course. Low-hanging
fruit is anything that is not grounded in growth. That's what I'll say. And I feel like for me, I'm very intentional with my words, because literally it's like neuro-linguistic programming. You know what I mean? Like everything we hear is going into our brains. Therefore, there is a neurological pathway that is created. And the more that we listen to that, the bigger it gets. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, I don't want to be listening to a song that's telling me anything that I feel that I'm not.
Right.
And so
that's
try
lying to you a lot of times.
Yeah, that's lying to you, right? And but you don't know. You could be. It's kind of like can cause hypnosis, and you'll be bobbing yourself right into destruction. Yeah. That's how I look at it. You know what I mean? So I feel like everything that I do, I really sometimes I think too much to the point where I might not execute right. But my intentions are always to make sure that I am mindful of every word in a way that is going to help people create new neurological pathways that are more healthy to what it is to thrive, you know, on this earth. So yeah,
it's important to be careful with our words because, you know, I think a lot of people can tend to use words willy-nilly. They can just kind of, you know, throw something out there. I've actually done it. I mean, we all do it, but I remember instances that, you know, somebody caught me when I said something like, yo, you shouldn't say that because this means that. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And that's a drop that this means that. Anyway, because this means that. And it's like, like I didn't think about that. Like I didn't realize that I could say this word and it could have an inherent offensive nature to it because I grew up not knowing that that word meant that. I thought it meant something else because it was used so willy-nilly by people that, you know, who knows how many times we harm people with our words, even in the slightest bit, you know, and it's in a way that would otherwise not be perceived as harmful, but maybe just something that triggers another person, you know, in whatever it is that they receive it as. So,
for sure. I feel like I definitely feel like we constantly have to check with ourselves, right? Like what we're saying. I feel like sometimes it's not so much it's not so much how you say it, or someone like yelling, like going off, right? But it's more so what the words that you actually mean. You know what I mean? If the person interprets it in such a way or they just get offensive, it's not my job to tailor my voice to everything. My job is to relay the message in the most respectful and intentional way. You know what I mean?
That you can, and that's what's important is that, you know, we do the best that we can, and on the receiving end, we also want to do the best that we can to try to make sure that we are clearly interpreting what's being said, because you can read a person's heart if you really pay attention. And I think that, you know, that's something that I think we maybe lost along the way in translation of being so focused on words only, or so focused on syntax or any of the like more logical kind of aspects of language or communication.
No, for sure. But I felt a lot of times it's like, I don't have to use the word triggers but you know, it's something that it kind of just sets us off.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's everybody's intention to not understand what we're saying, but also like I can look on the other side of it and see.
I think we might have caught a hiccup in the stream. Let's make sure, everybody, that you're liking, that you're subscribing to Life is a Freestyle. Check us out at lifeisafreestyle.com. We have a blog. We have a lot of you know content in there that you can check out that we've been writing about when it comes to freestyle and metaphor and stuff like that. So let's see if we can get Senza IT back in this piece. And we're back. Yes.
I think the bars was tearing up the internet. I don't know what happened. I just shut down.
Oh my gosh. The fiber optics were burning. The fiber optics were burning, y'all.
Through the system.
Yeah. So okay, as we continue on, so I'm glad that we didn't have to like stop and start again. That was great. But let me just I want you to check me one more time on pronunciation of the last half of your name. So again, it's Senza Infinite. Senza Infinite. All right, cool. So y'all remember that. Y'all remember that when y'all listen to her SoundCloud. I had some stuff, you know, playing at the beginning. I know y'all was bopping to it when we were coming in, but Senza Infinite is what y'all will tell y'all friends when y'all are playing this. Next time you're bumping it in the car or at the crib, put it up on your Google Chromecast, because you know you could do that on SoundCloud. So bump that. I was bumping it earlier today. So we're gonna continue on with these questions. As we round out the hour.
I'm just about to get some water. I'm a little parched.
It's all good. Hey, it is summertime, and
I say hydrated. It's hot. What? And I'm not complaining because it's super cold out here for months. It's just hot. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good. So, all right. Next question I have for you is, what signifiers play a role in the identification of a work being complete when considering the infinite number of possibilities the result could be?
Ooh, you hitting me to the core. That is actually something
I'm
that
gonna tell you right now, that's a great IT question.
Yo, it's a great question. And, you know, I think being transparent, you know, that's a lot of times that's something that I can struggle with because there's so many possibilities. You know what I mean? You could pick this, you could pick that. And that's just funny that that's a question because that is like, I think I was just having a conversation about that with someone earlier. And so let me think about that. I feel like,
take your time.
I feel like there's a point in anything that you do that is the signifier to like, all right, that's enough. I think it's more so, are you willing to listen? Are you willing to see different signs that, you know, that come about? And so for myself, I would say my signs are probably like people that hold me accountable. That's like, all right, like, you know, because I can get so caught in like wanting to like make this better. Oh, I can make this harmony. I can do this. And it could be never ending, right? It could be never ending. Well, also that can mean that it can never come out. You know what I mean? So I feel like the point, it really has to do with each person being able to be like, all right, like, do I feel like this is enough? Is there anything that's telling me that I need to go further? And then continuing from there. But if I think we're so in the brain all the time and just trying to figure it out, then we kind of just get lost in the sauce.
Yeah, it's very easy to do that. You know, we call it analysis paralysis. There's a lot of different things that, you know, can contribute to that. Wanting to get it perfect, not wanting to fail, being afraid
Anxiety.
of this, that. Yeah, exactly. A lot of fear is involved in not wanting to put something out, but also perfectionism is a thing. And, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword because, you know, the perfectionists who do get their work out, like for instance, I'm going to just go on a personal rant real quick say that the Jay Electronica album that came out this year was worth the wait. I'm going to say it's worth the wait. I don't know, you know, it's easy to, as a fan or in the fandom of hip hop or in the fandom of a particular artist, to get disappointed with an effort that they make because there was some kind of idea of perfection that you have for them because you want you look up to them.
You're imposing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's easy to just be like, it was cool, but it wasn't like what I was expecting. It's like, if you were expecting it, why didn't you write it?
Right. You know or did you get the message? Did you understand what the point was? That's, you know what I mean?
Did it come across? Was it effective?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's good to make sure that we are being productive and publishing our work, whether that's, you know, as a rapper or as an author, as a parent even, you know what I mean? Like if you're doing work on the back end for your children, I think it's important to explain to them perhaps the mechanisms of what it is that you're doing, because one day they're going to have to do this for theirs. And so, you know, there's a lot of that in there.
Definitely.
But I'm going to get into the next question because I am having a great time and I want to just keep going with this. So again, thank you for coming through and thank you for hopping back on as we continue on. It's known that metaphor exists in many forms throughout life, guiding us from one path to another. What are some of the most resonant symbols that have affected the way you approach your writing?
Greatest symbols.
Yeah, the most resonant symbols. Things that you see or you're inspired by that are like, I got to make a song about that, or I got to say something about this, or I see this, I have to put it in words, I have to rap it, I have to speak on it, I have to address it.
You know, I feel like there's a lot of things that I see. I feel like I do have ability to see the unheard, and I mean that how I said it.
Okay.
And
can you expand on that a little bit just for people in the chat?
So what I mean by that is like, you know, I don't do too much yapping. I'm just very observant. And I think I just pick up on the smallest things. I catch myself sometimes where I hear people talking and I hear the unsaid. So I'll laugh to myself because you could just hear how someone's saying something, whether anybody else picks it up or not. It's kind of like, you know, it's just the subtle little aggressions here or there, you know, just things about Nano. yes. So I just, was it quirk? Those are like super small atoms.
Yeah, little
Anyways,
quarks. Yeah.
but I feel like, so I feel like I'm still working out how to, I collect so much information, and it's finding the way to share it and share it very clear. And so I feel like if I think about symbols, I don't think I have a symbol. For me is every time that I see something that I feel is out of balance in the world. And I know that sounds so grand and so vague at the same time, but it's just like, I work with youth. So if like seeing how they may be affected because of their parents' decisions, like, like that fuels, like, it's not even just music. It fuels my music. If it fuels my want to make sure that I am not adding fuel to the fire with my words, and also on the other side, it fuels me to want to be a better person, and how do I step up, and how do I grow, and hopefully how can I help other people grow, so that can trickle all the way back down to the either children or people that are just in distress. But for me, definitely, I would say symbols. I would just say children, I guess. Okay. Overall, that's my top one, because I feel like I have more patience for children than I do for adults, because I feel like, why wouldn't I? A lot of these children are struggling, right? You know what I mean? For whatever various reasons. So I feel like anytime I see them in distress, it fuels my want to be better, you know what I mean? And create a better world from by adding my piece, my specific piece of the puzzle. So yeah.
How can you purify the ingredients that you use to be the plant food, or the soil or the water? Purify the water.
How do I purify myself?
How do you purify the self as you pour into those seeds, so that they can grow, with the most purity that they can have, so that when it's time for them to be the grower or the farmer or what have you, they know how to do it the right way, because it happened for them, because that's something that we don't really have a lot of in the society, is people who come from these stable, sane, sensible homes, and they're well-adjusted and all this kind of stuff. It's like when we see people like that, we're like, wow, you're amazing. Like, you have it all. You have such a clear, level head and all this other good stuff. And it's like, that's rare. And we have to get it not being rare by being that rare individual or that rare source for those seeds.
No, for sure. I think, if speaking of gardening and planting, if you have, if you have too much ash in your soil,
metaphors,
it's gonna be too acidic and ain't nothing gonna grow. We one of the boxes, the raised beds we did, we had like it was burning season, so we do like the sticks and all that, and so it was so much ash, concentrated ash in that area that my sister replanted it because it was just too much. So I think about like how, if we are full of ash and we're just feeding it to children or feeding to other people, then by default, things are, it's not going to really grow. It's going to be it's going to take even more time for it to grow. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And we see that, life always finds a way. Life always freestyles. It might take a while. But we've seen, at least in the archaeological record of, all these bones that we're pulling up out of the ground, that things evolve over time. And it doesn't matter how much time that actually is. People can argue that it is millions of years or thousands of years or, whatever, hundreds of years. But the fact is that, animals and plants adapt to the environment that they're in, because there's something about life that figures it out, even in spite of the circumstances. And so what we can do as people who are, cognizant, knowledgeable, and, well-meaning, is to try to take that intention of, providing the best environment for, the things that come after us, providing the best environment for the life that is here, because it's only going to help us. It's only going to help them. It's only going to help everything for things to be better after we're gone,
For sure, right? And that starts with each person, like, knowing that they matter, you know what I mean? And having that depth of self-love that we're going to continue seeking, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's one, I don't think you'll never end and trying to find the purest source of love for yourself, you know what I mean? So from there you can give it to others.
Right,
so,
right. All right, so these are all bars. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's check this out. So we've only had a couple of female guests thus far on Life is a Freestyle. Obviously, last week we had Nikki Jean IT.
Hey.
Shout out to Nikki Jean IT.
Oh yeah.
So let's speak on the maybe the aspect that doesn't get spoken on in hip hop enough, perhaps. Women's rights have been the focal view, or the focus, I should say, of civil reform for centuries.
Mm.
With the next steps towards true reform becoming ever more clear by the day, uh, who are some role models that inspire your current style of free thought?
That's a good question. I'll have to really think about that. Huh.
Take your time. We got about 20 more minutes.
Just speak really slow.
Yeah,
Like
this.
this. All right. So my free thought.
Yeah.
You know, the interesting thing is I don't know why I'm gonna say Nina Simone.
Okay.
Um,
Always a good choice.
yeah, for sure. And just from different interviews that I've seen, you know what I mean? And like the unavoidable about
Yeah.
that she had about herself, you know.
Right.
And,
Shout out to Nina Simone, the ancestor. She up there chilling.
yeah. So like I feel like her, and really I just feel like I can't, it won't be like anyone that's like, oh, like you know this person because of their popularity or whatever. You know what I mean?
It could be somebody
all,
close to you.
Yeah, I think it's I've been blessed to have lots of different women role models that have made me who I am today. You know what I mean? Like first starting with my mom and growing from there. And I feel like it's never ending. And I think about where I was before and how all these people that came to my life, these women, have affected me and continue to today. You know what I mean? I feel like it's not every day there's a moment for me to find a new role model. You know what I mean? Whether it be on Instagram, or YouTube. And and I think not so much just like willy-nilly, like you were saying, like a very like, oh, this person might be a role model because something. But I really think like searching and seeing like what's the common theme with that person. And really kind of just, for me, like reading that energy signature and seeing what they really about. So yeah, I feel like it's really everybody that I run into, every woman that I run into, it teaches me something. You know what I mean? Whether a woman I run to is just being really crappy, being really rude, I'm learning that is, they're being a role model in the sense of reflecting to me what I don't want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like any interaction has the possibility to be, any person has the possibility to be a role model for me.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit more on the idea of reading somebody's energy? Because I think there may be some people who maybe don't really look at that as something that is as easy or like obvious to be able to do. I know we can look at nonverbal communication, but like, is there a next level to reading a person's energy, or maybe a first level that people have to step up to? But is there a way to kind of ease people or ramp people up to this idea of being able to read energy?
Well, I feel like everybody has always felt somebody staring at them. Like you could be looking this way and you feel the back of your neck
burning,
literally burning, right? Like lava burning. It's as simple as that. It's kind of like instinctual. You know what I mean? Like you could be in a room and you can sense when danger is. And you're like, oh, like, your brain could try to stop you, but your actual like body already picks that up. You know what I mean? Just like how animals or anything, like if there's an earthquake, the bird's already gone. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's already there. It's just like really just being with yourself and just picking it up. Like the signs are always there. You can kind of read. The ability to read is there. It's just that if you want to tap into it and really just and listen to
to
yourself. Yeah, and you gotta listen. I think a lot of times we just second guess. Have you ever second guess yourself?
Right.
And you like,
I knew I was right. Yeah.
No, right. You do a whole test and you be like, all right, nah, this is wrong. And you find out you should have left your answers how they were at first. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. It's just not so much second guessing the
intuition,
the gut. Yeah. That's all I say.
Your gut is extremely our guts as human beings, we don't give them enough credit. There's a lot of stuff going on in there.
It's a brain.
That's a brain. There's neurons. I was talking to my lady the other day. There's parasites in a lot of our bodies that we don't know are there. And when you look at the larger scheme of things, you can say, and a point has been made, like, oh, if you look at the human race from the sky, from the space station or whatever, and you look down on Earth, it looks like a virus or some kind of infection or something, or a bacterial infection or growth or what have you. We could be seen, depending on how we treat the planet, if the planet is a living being, we could be seen as the parasite of the planet, perhaps. And so there are those of us who are well-meaning. We still have to eat plants or animals or whatever it is in order to sustain us. But there's also you don't want to look at a parasite as necessarily being a negative thing, but there are things living inside of you because you eat things that were living, that if you were to leave it outside, eventually it would decompose, and there would be microorganisms, there would be other things that would develop on it. So in the hot, muddy, misty kind of environment of the gut, all kinds of things are possible. And so, we have to be aware that, it's not just, us thinking for ourselves. Sometimes our guts that are thinking for us are actually influenced by what's down there in our guts. And so we can be influenced by something that may not be supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying?
No, facts. I was literally talking to a doctor yesterday, and he was saying the gut is what actually, from the gut, it sends the information to your brain. You know what I mean? And it can affect your mood. You know what I mean? So like your gut is the brain before your physical brain.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about drugs and substances and stuff like that when it comes to the brain. But we don't often talk about the diet being kind of on that same level of, that's why you have a Food and Drug Administration in the United States, because those things are essentially the same. What are you putting in your body or on your body that your body is absorbing, and then it's dealing with, in however way it's dealing with it. So if you're
same with words.
Yeah, exactly.
Same with words.
It's ingestion. It's ingestion of words too, of ideas. Exactly.
Yep.
Okay. So then, next question kind of goes into what's going on today, maybe in the last couple of months outside of our own windows, right? My dirty ass windows. Well, really wish I could just do something about that, but I'd have to be a window to fix whatever that is. Anyway, so freedom of speech has found its way back into the conversational forefront of society today. From your perspective, does freedom of speech affect the overall rate of change relating to how hip hop is perceived by the general listener?
I guess, simple answer, yes. But I felt like, freedom of speech, I think a lot of time when people say freedom of speech, it's not really, it's like, it's really airy fairy. It's not really grounded in anything. Like, you can say anything you want to. Yeah, you can say anything you want to. You can. That does not mean that the steps following after that will not affect your life. You know what I mean? Or affect others. So I feel like in music, right. So I feel like with music, a lot of times there's consequences for other people. Not so much for the people who are benefiting. Maybe like with being able to acquire more money or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So I felt like, with anything, freedom of speech is something that and I'm a big believer of freedom of speech, but what I think about is like, what am I saying? Is it useful? Is it necessary? And just really just trying to come from there. It's not so much just like saying stuff just because I can, you know what I mean? Like you could do anything. Yeah. That don't mean that you should, you know what I mean? And then what are the effects of that? Who is it going to affect? It's not just about you, it's not just about me. It's just about everybody, so it's just more freedom of speech comes with comes with responsibility, a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's like Uncle Ben in Spider-Man. Was it Uncle Ben?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ben Parker.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And we do have great power, and we have to realize that power. And I think a lot of times, you know, when we talk about like analysis paralysis and all this kind of stuff, um, you know, there's a certain level of damage that can do if we're not careful, because not acting sometimes can be just as bad as acting negatively. And so, we have to believe, we have to know that intentionality is actually worthwhile. It's a worthwhile endeavor. So if it does take a little bit more time to come up with that intention, or to like refine it so that it can be helpful or beneficial to not only yourself but others, then that extra work is worth it. And that's where that's where it becomes kind of a balance between, being prolific and being able to produce often, and being a perfectionist that may kind of space things out way over time and say, I want to get this right. There's definitely a balance in between where it's like, I want to be able to get this well enough and refine as I go along. And if I'm an artist or if I'm a speaker or what have you, I hope that the people who do follow me or who do have to listen to what I have to say or what I can produce are seeing my growth as I go along and refine my message.
Right.
Because then they can see the necessity of the refinement of the message as well as the productivity of getting it out, the publishing of the message. Both are important. So you got to find that balance.
No, for sure. You know what I mean? And it's on an individual basis. Some people can just rapid fire stuff out.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, and some people, they just need more time. I'm going to point at myself, you know what I mean? Because I want to always try to refine that intention, and like what you're saying about analysis paralysis, I think that's like, for me, I see where at times I can get caught in a state of anxiety. You know what I mean? That's why I say analysis paralysis can produce anxiety, because you're like, all right, if I don't do this, what if I do, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, if I stay focused and focus on my goal, my intention, then from there, I'll be able to blossom and I'll know when to put it out.
Yeah. So. It's beautiful. So last question, and then if we have a little bit of time left over, you can kind of shamelessly plug anything that you might have coming up or got going on, or maybe have people check out the archival stuff that you have going on. Whether negative or positive, conscious subject matter is having a more direct impact on how one views the current state of the world. Does conscious subject matter have a place in a larger region of hip hop in the near future? Why or why not?
Oh, I love this question. So probably for like the last maybe like 7 or 8 years, I've been like, and I still feel like music's gonna change, and I feel like, I don't like someone. I think conscious is such a trigger word to people. It's kind of like conspiracy theorists, it puts you in a state of mind. That's what I was about to say. That's why I call it situational awareness.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm going to say. And I feel like,
a very good phrase.
Yeah, because I mean, like, like if you go into any place and you're aware of what's going on, then you'll know how to proceed.
I know how to move, exactly.
Right. So I feel
vultures, like, as Jay-Z has said.
Yeah. So I feel like it's definitely already here. It's been here, right? But in the forefront, I feel like, yes, because people can only rap about so much. Like, we're at a point where, things have been shut down. People have lost their jobs. People are struggling, and someone's singing or whatever about something that is so far removed from reality. Like, people ain't gonna be with that. Like, they've been with it. It's kind of been a distraction, but like, I think we've shifted globally to such a different place where it's inevitable, like it has to change. Music has to change because we are changing, you know what I mean? Right. So there's no way it can stay the same, because it's kind of like, I perceive it as being like background noise. While I'm actually just trying to watch someone that's telling me something important. You know what I mean? So yes. So I feel like it's already on its way. It's already here. It's been here. It's just it's cultivating itself
Yeah.
right now
It's
in a
bubbling.
different in a different format. Yeah, in a different format. So for sure.
Yeah, there's we like to use metaphors a lot about food and how, again, what you put in, what you ingest, whether it's through your ears, through your eyes, nose, mouth, what have you.
Yeah.
And you change your diet, and the things that you used to eat, when you successfully change your diet, the things that you used to eat don't do the same thing for you anymore. So
Right.
you don't want the
Yeah.
sugars, or you don't want the fats, or you don't want the excess carbs or what have you,
Yeah.
because now you really like the taste of greens, or you really like the taste of
Yeah.
tomatoes or what have you. So I think it's the same thing with, we gotta. It's almost like that cartoon. I want to say it was Tom and Jerry or Bugs Bunny, probably Bugs Bunny, way back in the day, where you had the two. I think they were either criminals or something who were shipwrecked on an island, and then they started looking at each other, and one of them was kind of short and squat. It's like a Laurel and Hardy kind of thing, and one was kind of tall and skinny, and the tall and skinny one would look at the short and squat one like a chicken, like a baked chicken or something, right? Just with the head cut off, already on the plate with the sizzling and all that. And then the short and squat one would look at the other one like a hot dog or something, something long and tall and food, And so, people can be plants. Plants are obviously food if we use it, in a certain way. So there's a lot of mixture of metaphor here, but of course, we just want to make sure that we are ingesting things that are good for us, and to the point where the things that are not good for us anymore aren't even desirable anymore. They're not even a
Facts.
thought,
Facts. Someone that I know, she calls them, dead taste buds. And so if we're applying that to our ears, like, it's just you don't necessarily know what you're missing yet, because you just had so much of whatever it is, all the things that are not necessarily like helping you grow. You know what I mean? So it's just like it's about resetting your auditory eating. Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely going through that with the flavor bitter right now. I'm learning that bitter is actually a necessary taste, palate, flavor, what have you. But it's hard for me to get that because I didn't grow up with like eating a lot of bitter. I had So anyway, it's important though. Once you do the science, once you do the nutrition, and you understand bitter,
and then it's good
for you.
It's good once you get past that point, because I was at that point. But once you get past that point, then you're like, oh, this is, you can tell your body's craving it. You know what I mean? Like, because it is useful for you. So it is about getting to that point. And sometimes it takes people longer than others. You know what I mean? And so all we could do is support them the best way we can, and continue forward with our growth.
Definitely. All right. So that's all the questions. That was actually 16 bars. So we hit 16, and I know Nikki IT is gonna be happy with that, as well as others.
She said, not accepting any more.
Anymore. Nope. Cut it off. We're gonna stop the tape. No, but so do you have anything, any last words that you have for the people out there regarding the metaphor Life is a Freestyle, regarding anything, any plugs, anything that you want to kind of hit people with?
Yeah. So I would say the first thing is, I'm hoping that, myself included, that you wake up each day and check yourself, check your energy, check how you're feeling, check your spirit, and really see what's your intention for the day. You know what I mean? And going forward with that, and not so much just walking through life aimlessly. We are by interaction alone, we're going to influence somebody else. So that's my piece to the people. And as far as like plugging, I mean, next Friday I'm gonna drop something, so that's good. Yeah, it'll be on SoundCloud, so I definitely say, check out my Instagram, SoundCloud, and not just check it out and watch it just because I'm like, oh, like look at my stuff. Like, it's not about that. It's just because I really want to usher in a new understanding of music. You know what I mean? It's not about me. It's about what I'm going to be able to do for others. You know what I mean? So I just want to say that it's not superficial. It's grounded in my love for others. So that's all I got to say.
All right, thanks. This part right here might go into the extended minutes of the stream. But I think, yeah, we're definitely gonna splice this together and make sure that that's all in there because this is definitely a bar as well to drop at the end. So I want to thank you, Senza Infinite, for coming through IT.
Hey.
And you know, I appreciate everything that you've been able to provide for not only the people today on the stream, but this project of Life is a Freestyle. It's definitely you've been behind the scenes hooking stuff up and making sure that we are out here, you know, looking right. So
Hey, appreciate
I
it.
appreciate that as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, that's all I got to say.
yeah.
I'm going to stop this here, and then we're going to tell the people have a good Friday, have a good
Yes,
Saturday and the
yes, yes.
weekend, and you know we'll see y'all next time on Freestyle Fridays.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. Yes.
Peace.
Yes.